Having a paperless constitution. I have a test for it. Yeah, I don't know. There actually must be. It was a borrowed.
Wait, where'd you go?
Those are nice testings. Is that a problem? That's good. Sure.
No, not now.
Okay, let me go over plans and what's gonna come up in the next couple of weeks. First off, there won't be a test on the 10th. There'll be a test on the 17th, all right? The Monday after Easter, I will not be here. I'm gonna be in Covington. I'm going to go see my brother in Louisiana. So it's a long drive back, so there's no need, no rush. We'll finish up franchising on Wednesday. Next Wednesday week, as they say, we will talk about the future of the structures. We'll talk about future trends. And that will wrap up this. The test will be on chapters 6, 7, 8, and 9. And so I have all of the recordings posted. I apologize for some of the recordings being rough. I have sent in a couple of tickets on it and I don't have any resolution. I have given up and just recording all 3 sessions now, hoping to get one that's good. Okay, so that's my thoughts. My apologies there. And so without further ado, let's go on. So before I go on, I thought this was kind of interesting because franchising was my favorite class at Southern Miss. I don't know why, but one of them was I had this great professor by the name of Dr. Breland, Richard Breland, and he was just a legendary guy. He and Dr. Ivy are the main reasons that I am standing here and a professor today. And I can never thank them enough, nor do I ever think I will ever equal him. But I was looking in this book about WorldCom, and this this writer put this note about Dr. Breland, and it's so true. Talking about WorldCom, and I've talked to you about the Telecommunications Act of 1983 and 86 and the Ma Bell fallout, and Doc Breland predicted it all back 50 years ago. The late Richard C. Breland was he was radical and unconventional. He gathered his apprentices, of which I was one, in a circle and espoused marketing gems while picking apart our case studies, which, man, I still suffer. And he was dead on with his predictions about how telecommunications industry would take over the world. And he was right. The man was a genius. And so when I tell you some of the things that he taught me about franchising, it's not me. You're getting it from the best, okay? And so without further ado, let's talk about it. So first off, franchising is such a unique thing. And Doc Breland used to say it's one of the greatest melds between money and brains that you could ever come up with. Your money and their brains, all right? Franchising is not necessarily a unique American idea, but franchising is certainly espoused in the United States because the structures are natural for its growth, all right? And so there's some basic ideas that I want you to go through, but I was kind of just showing you some of the things here They show the top 10 franchises, and forgive me, I'm scrolling through quite fast. But if you notice in there, the buy-ins for them can be not that much. So the franchise fees can be 45,000, but your initial investments can be 1 to 2 million. All right, which if you've got that money, why do you need a franchise? Because you want more. I mean, that's the only reason why you want more. This also says that you have to have $500,000 in liquid capital. So when I talk about quick ratios and I talk about inventory, this is the antithesis. You've got to have this money liquid to be able to do this in McDonald's. And then the royalty fees are basically what you must pay every month before you pay $1 of any other bill. And usually those are on your net sales. And your net sales will add up because you will be transmitting them correct reports so they know exactly how much money you're making. Kind of going through this, I'm not going to spend much time on this. What I find unique is, let me get to the bottom of this. And the number one franchise, so they give you the best ones to open and own, but then they talk about the ones that the most profitable, and Dunkin' is at the top. Now I find this interesting because Chick-fil-A is nowhere in here, and I think it is the uniqueness of Chick-fil-A which puts itself separate from this. All right, so Dunkin' is number one, and I'm just thought that Dunkin' would have been here, especially with Krispy Kreme going out, but apparently something else moved into the store next to Pizza Hut. And it was a perfect fit because Dunkin' is owned by Pizza Hut or Wow Corporation. And I just thought that was a natural fill, and we may eventually see it. All right. So just kind of thought I'd show you that, these are the ones that have the most profit. Chick-fil-A is a special case, and we'll talk about them in a minute. All right. Okay. So let's talk about why Dr. Vreeland put so much faith in franchising. So first, let's define a franchise so that we know what it is. So what is franchising? Franchising is a marketing channels structure that is built to convince end users that they are buying from a vertically integrated manufacturer. To convince users. Actually, there are two unique, independent, separate organizations that have their own reasons for existence, albeit the franchisees are much more closely tied. The first is the franchisor at the top. They are the upstream producers or the manufacturers. They are the originators of a product or service that wishes to be distributed. That's one organization. The next is the franchisees. The franchisee is the downstream provider that performs the channel functions downstream. And so everything that connects locally to the end user, because remember the end user, performs certain channel functions, is thought of solely as being coming from the franchisee, but the consumer, as far as they're concerned with, they believe they're talking directly to the corporate organization. Next question. The key to this is the franchisee's deliberate loss of a separate identity. The deliberate loss of a separate identity. Now, if you were to drive to McDonald's and you were to go by the drive-through window you would see a plaque there that says operated by such and such corporation. I think it's out of Florida Rock. I can't remember. That signifies that's the separate organization, the unique one that is running the franchise. But you are not talking directly to McDonald's. You're talking to a separate organization. The franchisee assumes the identity of the franchisor. But they are unique and separate. But in many ways, they're also inseparable. And so let's talk a little bit about the structure. So we have two independent organizations. They joined forces together. They perform their marketing functions together to their mutual dependence of the benefit. And the franchisee compromises their independence. They can only serve what the franchisee says they can serve under a business format franchise. We'll explain that on Wednesday. The franchisee with that is given many things, especially a partner with big shoulders that helps you to succeed. Franchising as they grow, the franchisees may buy more, they may sell out, but they cooperate with the franchisor for obvious reasons, because success, they have tied themselves totally to the corporate organization. But it is what you call a deadly embrace, because the franchisors must have the franchisees succeed in order for the whole organization to succeed as well. The franchisee and the franchisor have two separate businesses with their own balance sheet and their own income statement. But by their very nature, they grow, and they're the fastest growing form of retailing that there is. Started around the 19th century in the United States, it's been done many other places. It seems to be done best in the United States. The advantages that a franchisor has is that they can maintain a solid control over their product. And that is the one disadvantage that corporate, producers have, is that when they sell their goods to wholesalers and retailers, their downstream partners can set prices and do whatever they wish. Whereas the franchisor, they're able to maintain that connection all the way down the channel environment. And it is to their benefits. There's many different models for franchising. So as I've said before, you got an idea. So the franchising amounts can be $50,000, and there's the expectation of capital and a lot of other things. McDonald's has been able to achieve a lot of success in their particular model. Subway was the fastest growing franchise for the last 20 years. One of the ways that they were able to do it is their franchise fee was about $14,000, and the buy-in was extremely low, just enough to get the kitchen started. And it meant that mom and pop grocery stores, even the smallest ones, could be able to buy that in and have a franchise in their own store. And it was a great idea. Subway, and I've talked about this, they created their own problems when they went away from same-day delivery or everyday delivery to every week delivery. And who likes lived lettuce? Nobody does. And they're still trying to fight that. They were the fastest growing franchise because they had the lowest buy-in, but their model depended on constantly being reinvigorated with new franchise fees. And that's where their ultimate mistake came from. Now, Chick-fil-A is in like one of the rare atmospheres by itself. So franchise fee for Chick-fil-A is $4,000. But the contract and the time it takes 2 years. They vet you completely as individuals, all right? They vet you big time. And so the buy-in doesn't mean as much, but are you a person who can work with them in the way they do things? They do not allow the franchisees, owners, more than one franchise location. Which, if you think about it, just think about how enormous that is to franchisees who want to spread everywhere. It means that there are no big multi-unit franchise people that are in essence covering an entire territory. It means they are spreading thousands of entrepreneurs everywhere across the United States. It's a great idea, it really is. They also require that you have no more, or let's just say you cannot have more than 50% of your net income come from anything other than Chick-fil-A. That's a big restriction, but they're looking for the right people. They have a flexibility that in their structure is unique. They make average $8 million a year in every individual franchise. They have a half of the number of franchises McDonald's does, but I think they're the number one, and they're certainly the number one in yearly generated income. No doubt about that. They were the smart ones. Instead of having a drive-up window, they came up with the drive-up door. So just think how easy that is. Instead of leaning over a drive-in window, what Chick-fil-A did was open the whole door so you're right next to the customer in the drive-in lane. Brilliant idea. I read this in the newspaper. It's either Gastonia or Charlotte, I can't remember. There was a Chick-fil-A that, of course, everybody's going through. They have reinvented the whole idea of drive-through, all right, and brilliant at it. You know, concentric circles forever, but everything's always moving, and it's amazing how much they can do. They were in, and there was so much traffic, especially during lunchtime, that they were causing significant traffic jams. And so this is what Chick-fil-A did in conjunction with the city. They tore the Chick-fil-A down, raised it to the ground, and built a Chick-fil-A that was driving in. And the city agreed to build the, in and outs for them to get in, and they solved it. Just think about a franchisor. Yeah, I'm gonna raise my whole building to the ground and build over. Just, that's unheard of, but they could do it. So anyway, I'm just giving you an idea that franchisings are structures in their way, but they're flexible just depending on the type of the type of corporation that you have. And there are many, many paths to success, and that's just one. Yes.
Where do people go to start a franchise? Do they go to the corporate or?
Yes, and of course, you see these online. There are franchise organizations that will introduce you to franchises. And I would urge anybody who wants to seriously do this to do a lot of research, because it's like everything. Once something is good, there are 100,000 franchises out there. All right. So it's as small as you want to get or as big as you want to get. It just depends on where your buy-in is and what you're happy with. But it can be anything. Once again, the thing about franchises, if you have money, all right, and you have the desire, but you don't have the experience and you don't have the background, then that's what a franchise gives you. All right. And that's its number one appeal. If I have money on the table and I have a desire to grow, a franchising gives me an outlet for that. But like everything, you have to do your research on what's the best one and what you're going to be happy with too. So there are franchises also for services, H&R Block. All right. So H&R Block has face-to-face franchising is available. Sports Clip. Okay. Same thing. Those are services that are franchises. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a product. It's most about spreading an idea. And that's what makes franchising so appealing to the franchisor and the buy-in for a franchising. It's whatever fits. Now, if you're gonna ask me one personal suggestion, 90% of all food establishments fail within the first 3 years. 60% of all hardware stores succeed. So that might give you an idea of where you might think of going. But that's a tough job.
Ace
too.
Hardware.
Yeah. Ace Hardware is one of those. Ace Hardware is rare because it's actually one of those franchises. Lowe's companies is different in that way as well. They're home improvement, but it's something about the home improvement and hardware that is a constant state of growing. All right, it's redesigned itself, and it's because we've now gone from, well, we have DIY, do it yourself, and then do it for me. But all of those spell into improvements, and all of those spell money, especially for that. If you come to the Analytics Summit, you're going to listen to two great speakers on how this is done. And one of them is from Lowe's. And so they're going to talk about how Lowe's has takes their analytics and achieve success. We're also going to have someone from Volvo, who's from Sweden, and my wife's going to be away. She just can't believe it. His name is Jesper Holt, and he's from Volvo. He's going to talk about sustainability in the supply chain. And he wrote this. I do too much study, but I read his master's thesis on sustainability in the supply chain in Volvo. So it's pretty brilliant work. These are one of a kind people to come see. So I invite you to come. All right. So what are the advantages? Why are we doing this? So the first, what are the advantages to the franchisee? I want to do something. I'm not built for the 9 to 5. I have this desire to achieve something. I have this money that's left over, but I don't know what to do. And I've started 3 businesses myself, and you just don't have any idea of the complications. All I have to say is 941 quarterly returns to a bunch of business people and go, oh. 941, by the way, is unemployment insurance that you must turn in at the end of every quarter. Otherwise, you get a very nasty letter from the IRS, maybe even a visit. Anyway, but that's the kind of thing that you have to live and grow through. And the growing pains, more than anything else, it's the growing pains that take out good young starters. And so a franchising agreement is almost the perfect combination, all right? The franchising agreement says that for a starter fee and certain expectations, I can buy a way of doing business. There are 2 types of franchisors. The one that I'm going to talk about today is called the business format franchisor. And what they do is they have a prepackaged solution for all your problems. I like how they put that. Yes. Does it have a problem? Way of fixing old age? Nope, sorry. Anyway, the first thing it has, they have a great startup package. You have the ongoing benefits, and there are the competitive advantages that you have with franchising. And the one we're going to talk about today for the franchisee is going to be the startup package, which in essence is also, they slide into the ongoing benefits. But I'm showing this slide here. We're going to move on to it, where the next slide is going to explain it more. So, site selection. Where's the best place to put my stuff? All right. What are the 3 most important things in real estate? Does anybody know?
Location, location, location.
Absolutely. That's it. Okay. Location, location, location. It's the everything in real estate. Nothing else matters other than location. But if I don't understand the area, if I don't understand real estate, I'm lost. Site selection is one of the most important things that companies do, especially like McDonald's. Now, they also do it with a little hook, okay? So, anybody want to guess the value of the land that the McDonald's sits on? Not the building, not the franchise, just a plot of ground. Anybody want to guess?
All of them? It's a lot. It's like Billy, like they're like a real estate company almost.
Well, yeah, not the entire, I'm sorry. What I should have said is just that one in Boone,
Oh, Boone?
just that one plot of land. Not the building, not the franchise, just that one plot.
Oh, that's weird. I don't know, maybe 1,000,005.
Close, it's 2 million. Okay, yeah, just that little piece of land. The Wendy's on the corner, that land is worth $4 million. Not the building, not the franchise, all right? I have heard people tell me, and I have no confirmation on this, so, this is just, hearsay. But I've heard that particular Wendy's is the highest volume in sales in all of Western Carolina. And I would almost believe it, all right? It's believable, but I can't confirm it. And I think it's excellent. And I'm amazed any of you have ever tried to get through the drive-through that it's that way. I eventually think they're going to tear it down. I don't know.
It's only double decker Wendy's.
Yeah, I mean, yes,
Yeah.
I know. You see these a lot now in South Korea and Europe. They do have double decker kinds of fast food places, but it's very unusual in the United States. And there's only one reason why. They can't fill up. I mean, they fill up one floor too quick.
Yeah.
And so they've got to have 2 floors. That's just how much business gets done. So, but just imagine if you're a brand new individual as a franchisee, ponying up $4 million, they wouldn't sell you the land. Actually, they'd lease you the land probably at prohibitive rates, no doubt about it. But what McDonald's does is they secure the land for you. They let you build the building on it and let you put in any style store you want, but they own the land. So it's what they call it, velvet handcuffs or deadly embrace, whatever way you want to call it. There's this going on here, all right? You're basically wedded to McDonald's success. McDonald's success is wedded to you. It's not a bad idea, all right? It works in this situation, and it's just part of the nature of a franchise. They talk about budget rental car here. Let me say also, we have, oh gosh, went blank. Enterprise in town. Enterprises does the same thing. They'll do a territory analysis, but Enterprise is unique because they want to be in subdivisions in areas where people are, because the model around Enterprise is those individuals who want a car for travel, who don't want to put a lot of miles on their car, or for individuals who need a car while their other one is in the shop. Their model says that the average individual rents one of their cars for 3 to 7 days, whereas Hertz and Avis is like 1 to 4. Makes a lot of difference, all right? That's why site selection is so critical. Avis and Hertz you would expect to see around more travel places, okay? So that's the first thing you get site selection. The next thing you get is you get a brand name. And with a brand name, what you get is a loyal clientele before you ever open the doors. That is a major thing in your favor, all right? And so what it means is that before you ever start, you have people that are coming in wanting to be, or let's just say buy from you already. My wife and I when I eat pizza, I haven't eaten in a while, but Pizza Hut has always been our favorite. It's kind of unique. Pizza Hut is almost like, it's a restaurant food. I've talked about that in Sweden, and it's just as good here. And I could not understand possibly why you would throw the Pizza Hut people out of their building, because I thought to myself, what are you going to put there other than a pizza parlor? And what they did was raise it to the ground and put up a gas station. So what do I know? But anyway, as soon as Pizza Hut hit the ground here, they had a brand name. And there was a lot of concern that right next to the Pizza Hut would go a Dunkin' Donuts because of the food, not the Food Lion, thank you, down the road. Well, as it turns out, the Krispy Kreme is now out. And so there's still an opening somewhere out there eventually for Dunkin' Donuts to come in. So anyway, the brand name. So you first have site selection, they do that for you. You've got the brand name, so you're off and running. And then the last thing is you have the big shoulders of a large corporate organization. You have the economies of scale that help you enormously. When you're in a new business, as I've said before, the first thing you're trying to do is build trade references. You spend a lot of time being on lists of COD cashier's check and being able to buy things. But when you have the blessing of an organization like a Wendy's or anything, let me just put it that way, you have striking power. You get a preferred status with service providers. Because the franchisor can pool all the demand of those services together, and they're actually bid for those services everywhere across the United States. And so a plumbing firm, if they got a contract for all the franchises of McDonald's, you can just imagine what kind of money that would be. And so these are the three great things that a franchisee gets. They get a start, and they get a really, really good start. The next thing is they get the ongoing benefits. The first bullet is the one that's definitely going to be a test question. Franchising is not a system for launching a business. Franchise is a system for running a business. Because you're the franchisor, the manufacturer's success is so keenly tied to the success of the franchisees. It is the franchisor's best interest to do whatever they can to help them. And so that is a continuous program of supervision. And that includes monitoring, looking after quality problems. Where do those find out, or where do you get them? You get them into the monthly and weekly and even daily reports. All right. You are required as a business format franchisor to file daily, weekly, monthly, and semi-monthly reports. So when I worked for Radio Shack in Lafayette in the 80s, every day we would electronically send our daily reports online by 300 baud modem. And if you want to look up ancient history, you can look up how fast that is. All right. I talk faster than that. But anyway, we did, and we would file our daily reports, and we would have to balance our books every day. But I want you to think of this, think of a McDonald's, and I'm guessing, I think we're 40,000 franchises in the United States is close enough. All 40,000 franchises every day sending daily reports to McDonald's corporate. And all of that information, 40,000 different data points, all collectively going into a massive system of analytics. And then think of an analytic program like IBM Watson taking all of that information, because big data is what analytics is all about, and starting to predict trends, starting to anticipate problems. And that's the thing that the big people up on the top can do for the franchises below. The franchisors can notice when mistakes are being made. They can recommend positive or negative things to do, whether they have to cut back on sales force or whatever they have to do. They may even have an agent that comes and works with them for a given period of time. There tend to be staff individuals, not lines, so they're not directly related, but they can help wherever possible. With that many data points every day being sent in, being required to do all of those submission of reports, it allows the franchisor to have greater control over the success of the franchisees and help, above all things, help when the need requires. And so it's like I said, it's a win-win situation. It works great for both sides, all right? The other thing that a franchisor does is they are consolidators. So McDonald's has a certain menu. And by the things that they're selling, McDonald's has a vendor replenishment system that calculates what needs to be on the truck to go out the next week. And because they're not just making one Big Mac, but millions of Big Macs every day, just think of the economies of scale that are involved that way. McDonald's used to make, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they used to make the buns local because that's the one thing that they felt needed to be fresh. Now, the one other thing about the McDonald's formula was that they put a little bit extra sugar in their buns. And that's kind of why kids like McDonald's. I don't know if they do that anymore. But that was one thing Dr. Freeland told me a long, long time ago. But mostly what they do is they consolidate all of those things together. The franchisors focus on one product line. They can benefit, they have benefits from focusing on that one line. One is the induction of quality. So in 2007, McDonald's elected a CEO who came directly from McDonald's youth. He was a hamburger flipper. And the first thing that he did when he became the CEO was he traveled to a McDonald's in every state in the United States. So it was pretty good idea. And the one thing that he found, and this was between 2007 and 2015, so whatever else I did, the one thing that he had to do to make McDonald's survive is improve the quality of the ingredients. Because anyway, in the fast food, any food, isn't the ingredients the most important thing? And he did. And while they did not change the line, they changed the ingredients. And you had this natural success growth up. And the other thing that he did was he improved drastically on the coffee and how the coffee was made. And the McAfee, whatever you want to call it, became a thing for them, except when it breaks, the ice cream machine, which seems constant. Anyway, so the franchisors had this ability to focus on the brand concept, but they also act as the enforcers, okay? They're the traffic cops. Instead of all of this intra-channel competition that goes on, theoretically, it does not exist in a franchise. Everybody has their own territory, and the territory is respected. And so there's a prevention of free riding, where one party will benefit where the other party. And not only that, but the franchisor grants consistency. And consistency is extremely important, especially when it comes to ingredients and other things as well. So Ramada Inn and Holiday Inn in the 70s, if you were going to a Holiday Inn in Pensacola, Florida, it would be the exact same model of the Holiday Inn in St. Paul, Minnesota. They built them the same way, and so did Ramada. Ramada had a brand mantra in the 70s, which was the best surprise is no surprise. And there was a certain value in that for consumers. There was a consistency. You knew you were always going to get a certain value if you stayed there. Well, they've changed the model a little bit, but we can go into any hotel. We know sort of where the elevators are. We know where the breakfast food should be. We kind of got an idea where the coffee is going to be. There's still expectations, but it's still built around standards developed by the franchisor. And so this is the competitive advantage that being a franchise gives versus an independent organization. So, what are the advantages to the franchisor? And sometimes when I talk about this, the benefits can be mutual. So you kind of get a feel for both sides. So if I have a great idea and I need to get that idea moving fast, a professional commercial cleaning corporation that can be carried into a single van, that would be ServiceMaster. But how do I get this thing rolling across the United States as fast as I possibly can? Well, this is what a franchise will do for the franchisor. I gain first mover advantage, and I get to amortize those costs over a larger operation. I don't have to be worried about angels coming in and investing in my corporation and changing my vision of success. I have investors, but they're willing investors. They are franchisees who will offer me the sufficient franchise resources I need, i.e. capital, and will help this organization grow fast. It means that I'm giving up the expectations of certain guaranteed incomes if I were to do it myself, but I also guarantee myself in one way a much rapid advancement. What I also gain is a dual way, a two-way highway when it comes to employees too. So the people that are in my organization, the franchisor, gain knowledge of success because they help guide successful franchises. They may be having the desire to feel that entrepreneurial spirit, and they become franchisee owners. And so one of the great things about a franchising organization is it retains the unique idiosyncratic knowledge within the system itself. So the knowledge that was learned by the CEO of the hamburger flip or hamburger, yes, thank you. Yeah, hamburger organization, right? Hamburger University, excuse me. Hamburger, that's it.
That's McDonald's.
Exactly, McDonald's University. He, a burger flipper, became CEO. He learned the organization from the very beginning all the way up to the top. The corporate organization, they have all of that magic information, and that magic information gets split out and sent everywhere else. The successes of the organization and their failures are shared across the structure. And that's a good thing. It incentivizes the staff. You make them residual claimants on the profits of the firm. The success as a franchisor is shown solely by the success of the franchisee. The franchisor, other than the company stores, can't raise $1. The franchisees can. And so my success is tied to them. And that is a great tool for leveraging success. And then you have that pride and sense of loyalty towards the franchise system. And we'll talk on Wednesday of a couple of success stories. But also the franchisees can provide a local vision. Once again, you learn from the downstream providers. So this is getting to the end of the 40 days of Lent in Louisiana. Even though it's secular, it tends to be a Catholic kind of, or Christian kind of state. And so many of the things like Mardi Gras that are secular now are tied up along their traditions. And one of them during the 40 days of Lent is you don't eat meat on Friday, which means you eat fish. And that's no problem in Louisiana because they have some of the best oysters and shrimp and royal reds and anything else you want to eat in the world when it comes to that. But one of the things that they had especially on the fast food market, is that you could get a fish sandwich for lunch. All right. McDonald's fish sandwich, and when it was called the Whaler for Burger King, directly came from that kind of input. All right. The McRib, same way. The McRib came from something local, and the McRib is always kind of interesting to me because they announced it. It's a sundown thing. So like sundown happens after 2 weeks, and the McRib goes away because you eat that one just to see remember what it tastes like, and then you're done with it. You don't want it anymore. Okay, and then it folds out again. But that's once again listening to the franchises. So that's the benefits for the franchisor. So this is kind of an example. We have to be very careful when we make, bland assertions. There's a certain documented dislike of cheese in cultures like Japan and South Korea and China. Cheetos, when they were trying to develop flavors to have Cheetos in there, the one flavor that hit more than any other was Kobe beef. And so you made Cheetos without cheese, and it went great. I taught in South Korea for 7 weeks, so I had one. Well, anyway, Pizza Hut was just concerned about it. William Heineke said, look, I'll do everything. It's franchise. I'll take the risk. And it exploded. Like with everything, it went beyond any expectation. He became what was called a super franchisor. You don't have to worry about that. But it basically states that many times people with their boots on the ground know a lot more than franchisors do. And this is an example of where success happens and it's spread. All right. And it's spread well. Finally, because everybody likes to be contradictory, there are reasons why not franchise. All right. And so Starbucks are company rather than franchise. And somehow they had no problem expanding. The problems with expansion and franchising is that you can do it too quickly. And this is what happened with Krispy Kreme. And I think it had to do much with the liquid capital that their franchisees were supposed to have. And I think that was the major source of the problems. So what they do is something much different. They say that every individual is a marketing director in the corporation and that they own them all, except that's not completely true because franchisors run many of the ones that are in airports and in other locations worldwide where they're not allowed to have a business in those particular countries. So doesn't happen all the time. It's not always a great idea, but there are many solid advantages to make franchising work and work great. Okay. All right, my voice is dead. So let's move on. We will